Mr. Kamath, thank you so much for chatting with ET now. It's a tough time when you're taking charge as the chairman of Infosys. The global environment is tough and there's a lot of challenge back home as well with increasing competition. Are you anxious or are you excited?
I'm a believer in the theory of constraints. It's good to have constraints. I guess it makes you as a company rise to greater heights. It's a good time to be here.
Let's talk first about the global headwinds, because we are in a tough environment. Clearly, we had you on a channel a couple of weeks ago as well talking about the slowdown, but this seems to be probably worse than what we had originally anticipated. And as a result of this, do you see a lot of American companies cutting down on discretionary spending, not having an impact on the IT sector?
They will probably not cut down on discretionary spending, but what could happen both in Europe and the US is that in most areas business will be where it is. So business will not grow robustly. Now if you look at growth rates of 2%, you get an expectation of what growth can be. But certain verticals, say the financial sector particularly, will probably be in a stall, and that's what most commentators are today saying. For the next 4 to 5 years, business will be at a stall.
And that is obviously not good for the Indian IT sector.
Yeah, I think it's that constraint that I talked about. That puts in a constraint, then it forces you to look at what is beyond in terms of your opportunity and how you will respond to it.
In terms of how long do you think this period could last, this period of uncertainty that you spoke about, and how different do you think is this crisis going to be from 2008?
Yeah, my own view is that there won't be any contraction of a dramatic nature in either Europe or the US. What will happen is there won't be growth of a dramatic nature. That's one. Two, I think certain sectors will have more pain than others. The good news is that most sectors other than financial services sector, and I'll come to that in a moment, are in a way healthy, in the sense that they have good profits in the last few years. They cleaned up the balance sheet and sitting on cash. The financial sector is a different story because of some particular problems, two sets of problems. Certain problems relating to historical mortgages in the US and certain country-related problems in Europe. So this is significantly different from what happened last time. Because you had a mark-to-market problem where you did not know what the market was in terms of pricing, for example. And you had the bad debt in the context of the mortgages. So this time is a different situation from last time. The good news for India from all this is that commodities have gone off their highs. And I think that solution that we were trying to seek to get inflation under control probably will happen. So it's a mixed bag.
The contrarian view from an IT point of view is that during tough times like this, companies will gradually tend to outsource more because they look at more cost efficiency. Do you see that happening this time as well?
They will indeed try to look at more outsourcing, but if you are not growing, ultimately there is a limit to what you can outsource. So I guess it's going to be an interesting season, as it were, in terms of what will happen. So IT companies will have to, again, I'd say, take this as a constraint where you rethink your strategy and go beyond.
Right. In terms of how prolonged this crisis will be, do you think it will last for more than a couple of years, or do you think...
I would guess that, let's say, the correction in the US should take between 12 months to a year. That's what most people believe. But having said that, will it then accelerate into growth over the next 3 to 5 years?
Probably not.
Most people say probably not. So it will be slow growth, which will mean unemployment will remain high, and you will need to address the issues of unemployment in the US context. In the European context, I think it's essentially a problem today of budgetary deficits which have been financed through various types of paper. You're sitting with banks, and a solution will have to be found for these papers and these countries. My own view is that no bank will be allowed to fail. So it is some sort of long, extended period over which you try to adjust.
But looking at the way global markets are reacting right now, do you think they're already pricing in a recession?
I don't think they are pricing in a recession. They are pricing in a situation which is on them today, which is an uncertainty, a season of uncertainty, a season where action will have to be taken. What action is not very clear, which countries is broadly clear but not really. I think all this is creating uncertainty, and its impact on, say, the financial system is being, I think, broadly worked at.
But here in India as well, are you surprised at the way the markets have reacted? IT sector, for instance, on Friday we saw Infosys take a knock of 8%. It's a bit unprecedented, isn't it? It's been considered as a bellwether.
I think that, again, the market is pricing in what they expect as uncertainty in the West. And that being, let's say, for most IT companies, maybe today 60 to 70% of their business. I guess that the market is right to price it in.
Right. Do you think then, given the uncertainty that we're looking at and increasingly IT companies will have lesser visibility of growth, do you think it's probably time for Infosys to give up on its age-old habit of giving guidance every quarter, something that has been hailed, but do you think now it's going to be tough for you to do that?
I think we are some point away from trying to assess whether the guidance is given or not. This is a philosophy in a way that Murthy articulated a long time back, and I think I don't see a need to revisit it at this point in time. But what you would need to visit, not revisit, is the opportunity set that comes from the constraints that you see on the horizon.
But you spoke about looking at other areas as well. If Europe and US are both going to be down, I'm wondering, what is the other opportunity? Do you think we should focus more on the domestic opportunity?
What I see as the opportunity, and I'm sure most IT companies, including Infosys, will ultimately look at it as a broader opportunity, are those countries which are catching up at speed, China and India to start with, maybe the rest of the BRIC countries, and as you go along, maybe parts of Africa. This would be the opportunity set. Why? A few years back, if you look at India, catch-up time in terms of technology used to be 5 years to 10 years. Say 5 to 6 years back, it became 1 to 2 years. Today it is real time. It says as soon as there is a development anywhere in the world, we in India have that in place in India. B, I think incomes have gone up, so you can afford technology today. C, the modes in which technology can be used is changing. For example, your PDA is your default device. So given this, I think the opportunity set in India, including the affordability, is increasing dramatically. So in China too, probably a couple of years or 3-4 years ahead of us. So given that, these two markets will grow dramatically. That's one. And as I said, the other BRIC countries. The other major driver here, which I'm sure IT companies and technology companies from India will look at, is what is your exposure to various verticals? So predominantly, the low-hanging fruit was seen to be the banking and financial services vertical and the telecom vertical. Government was seen as probably last in the queue, and you had health services somewhere ahead of the queue. So I guess that the opportunity that will be now looked at is really in government across the world and in health services. And indeed in India too, government and health services will be a focus.
Right.
I think this should make up for I would say the drop that one could expect from